O PIP, Programa de Incentivo à Pesquisa da LIBS, foi inaugurado em 2019 para incentivar a produção científica no Brasil. Queremos parcerias com pesquisadores brasileiros para beneficiar pacientes brasileiros. Através do PIP, queremos apoiar diversos tipos de estudos. E para conhecer o nosso programa, você pode acessar o site do PIP e conferir os critérios para a submissão. O projeto pode ser encaminhado para o e-mail do PIP ou para um dos nossos MSLs. E depois ele será avaliado por um comitê científico interno. Se o projeto for aprovado, a equipe de pesquisa clínica da LIBS dará todo o suporte necessário. Essa ação reflete nosso compromisso com o sucesso da ciência brasileira. Para conhecerem mais o PIP, acessem o site ou conversem com um dos nossos MSLs. Você também pode entrar em contato com a gente pelo e-mail pip@libs.com.br.
Dr. Matteo, it's a pleasure for us to have you here this night. Thank you. Romulo, por favor, se quiser começar, com você a palavra.
Thank you, Carol. It's my great pleasure to have the opportunity to open this workshop with Matteo. Matteo is a great friend, and I could not think of a better person to talk in this inaugural session. Matteo is still a young oncologist, but with so many contributions to the field of breast cancer. It's really grateful how committed he is with clinical research and with clinical care of patients with breast cancer. And Matteo was in the other side few years ago. So as all you in this workshop, he was trying to have opportunities, to open doors, and it's very important to have someone that just passed through this pathway to give you some advice and give you some guidance of how to pursue your goals of becoming a clinical investigator. So thank you, all of you that also were interested in the workshop. I think this is the first step. If you don't try, you never get to anywhere. And I think the workshop will have some time later to discuss, just as in Portuguese, so don't feel shy. But now, Matteo, you are the guy. You are the number 10 of this workshop. And thank you so much for making this happen. I know your time zone, it's almost midnight in Italy. So thank you so much. And Matteo just have a new baby. So it's his second son. Thank you so much, Matteo. It's all yours.
Thanks a lot, Romualdo. Thanks a lot to all of you for this opportunity. So first, I really wish to thank my friend Romualdo for the invitation and the opportunity to be here. And I actually want to congratulate him for this initiative, because I think I participated to something like this workshop here in Europe, and indeed this has been kind of one of the first steps to get enthusiasm and to get into research and to feel motivated and to find my path into clinical research in oncology. So in the next half an hour, I'm gonna discuss a more philosophical talk, if I can say like that, on oncology research opportunities abroad. So mostly doing fellowship and the reason and why, how, and what type of fellowship to do. I'm pretty sure that Romualdo will fully agree with my main conclusion from this talk, which is that for our type of activity, if we want to pursue a career in research, doing a fellowship and to see some other environment is crucial to make a step forward and to improve our research skill, network of collaborators and ideas and projects. And so I hope that I will bring some of this enthusiasm in this presentation. So my name is Matteo Lambertini. I'm a medical oncologist from Italy, from Genova, which is a city in the northwest of Italy. I did all my training in Genova, but as I will show, I've traveled quite a lot during my oncology training and then afterwards for my PhD. And I actually trained also with many Brazilians and Portuguese, but unfortunately I do not speak Portuguese. I only know a few words, so I cannot do this presentation in Portuguese. So these are my disclosure, known related to the topic of today's talk. The main one, which is actually related to the topic of today's talk, is that I'm a member of the ESMO Young Oncologist Committee. And this is a picture that we took a few days ago during the ESMO conference that finally was a kind of hybrid event, so with a few people on site, and it was really nice to have some human interaction again. And this is the main reason why a lot of my slides will be covering initiative by ESMO and also by us as the Young Oncologist Committee in these regards on the fellowship and the opportunities for young oncologists. I'm not only addressing this issue because I'm a member of the Young Oncologist Committee, but mostly because this has been really crucial for my career development, as I will show in my presentation. So here are the three topics that I'm going to discuss. First, why to apply for a fellowship, what fellowship to apply for, and how to apply for a fellowship. So a few tips, a few advices based on my experience. As Romualdo has mentioned, I just went through all this process a few years ago. So I hope to that this lecture could be helpful to some of you. Starting with the why apply for a fellowship. And I can say that in the last few years, I've been in touch with many colleagues, asking advices and tips on applying for a fellowship. And so my first question, or every time I had a colleague on the phone asking about fellowship, was, why are you applying for a fellowship? So what do you really want from this fellowship? And then I think that if the reasons are only one or just a few of those in these slides, I think this is probably not enough. So if you want to do a fellowship because you want to publish in a high impact journal, and that's your final goal, or you want to present to a major conference, that's it. Or I also had colleagues saying, I just want to have a different experience as compared to what I'm having at my home institution. Or maybe live somewhere else in a nice city for a few months or for a few years. So in these cases, I think that if it's only one or few of these reasons, it's probably better to stay home. Fellowship is much more complicated. It's a 360-degree experience. So it's not only publishing a nice paper or presenting to an important conference. I think the key question when you consider to apply for a fellowship are first, what do you want to be in your professional career? So do you want to work as a general oncologist in a peripheral center, or the other way around, you want to become an expert in that specific field and try to work in an academic institution where you can focus on your one type of disease? What actually you want to be in the coming 5 to 10 years, because the fellowship will strongly impact what you are gonna be in the next 5 to 10 years. And then on more a scientific point of view, the key questions are, how do you want to contribute in the field of oncology? Because that's the final goal of the fellowship and of all our research effort, to do something in the field of oncology. And then what do you want to investigate specifically? So what are your projects that you want to carry on in your fellowship and maybe back home or after your fellowship in a different institution? Then something that Romualdo has mentioned, life is not only professional life, but it's also personal life. And actually a fellowship, especially long-term fellowship, are something that will completely change your life, not only from a professional perspective, but also from a personal perspective. Like in my case, I've left kind of alone for this long-term fellowship, and then I got married, and when we came back to Italy, my wife was pregnant of the third baby, and I can really say that during those 4 years I spent abroad, a lot of things have changed in my mind, also on a personal perspective, and this is something that impacts your fellowship, but also your decision after your fellowship. This may be something that I would have never understood when I started all my fellowships, when I was a trainee medical oncologist and I just wanted to travel and to work in nice places. But it's something that you have to kind of accept in a positive way and live, I would say, fully also throughout your fellowship, and that will probably change also your mindset during your fellowship and your decision after your fellowship. So, like, more in general, what is a fellowship? What can help you achieve in a fellowship? First, and most importantly, to improve and develop your skills and knowledge in clinical trials, translational research, basic science. So it's a learning opportunity for improving your research skill. And for research, we have clinical research, translational research, or basic science. A fellowship can help you becoming independent in running projects. This is key because it's not only the fellowship and the projects of your fellowship, but it's also your life after your fellowship and your projects following and after your fellowship that are probably even more important than those that you can run during your fellowship. Third important point, increase your network of international collaborators. I'm gonna go back to this point because this is one of a crucial aspect to run projects. Also, when you are back home, maybe also working in a small institution or not very fancy or famous institution. It's helpful to define your career ambition and goals. And among them, for sure, it will help dramatically to obtain better job opportunities, not only in your home country, but also outside your country. It helps to develop successful scientific, clinical, and potentially academic career. This has been, for example, my case. Thanks to the kind of CV that I built during my fellowship, I was able to get an academic position back in my country, which is not always easy. So it's something that you really need to get and to you really need to get to find it. And then finally, to improve and develop skills in your home institution when and if you return. And this is again something that I have lived a couple of years ago when I decided to move back to my country and actually to my home institution. This is something that is critical of the fellowship. So you really need to bring back home what you have learned during your fellowship and to implement back in your country all the positive things that you have lived during your fellowship. Doing a fellowship is a unique opportunity to boost your career by acquiring further training in a specific field. This is for sure 100% the case, but it's not always easy. This is, and I'm sure Romualdo will confirm that, it requires a lot of efforts, compromises, and comes with several sacrifices and challenges. And this is something that I faced during my time of the fellowship outside my country, and also when I moved back to my country to start my research activity. So like most of the people that are not doing this type of activities will see people doing these activities as a kind of linear process, very easy one, not a lot of efforts needed to get where you want to go. But actually that's not the case. It's very complicated. And again, you need a lot of effort, a lot of motivation. And I'm going back to this point of the motivation to do a successful fellowship and successful projects also after your fellowship. Finalizing, doing a fellowship means do first during a period of further training. So this is the first point, to learn something more than what you have done back in your institution. And during this period of training, you will develop your projects. It's not only one, but it should be several projects. One size does not fit all, so you should adjust your fellowship based on your aims and goals. You want to become a successful translational researcher. This is a completely different type of fellowship and environment you should try to work in as compared to doing a clinical-based fellowship or doing, for example, basic research, which is different than translational research. Something that you have to keep in mind is that this lab or non-lab based fellowship are two different concepts of fellowship, and both of them can be successful, but they require different skills and also different also attitude during the fellowship. And the main point is that a clinical based fellowship, clinical research based fellowship is probably, you probably can do like more projects and to finalize more projects in a more limited period of time as compared to a more lab-based fellowship that of course will require much more time. And you have to accept that if you want to become a translational researcher, for example. As a physician, I would probably not recommend to do basic research only, because this is probably not our main area of expertise. This is not what we have studied to do for. And we will never be able to be as good as people that have trained into basic research. I will fully recommend the translational research-based fellowship, especially in these days of precision medicine and so on. But basic research is something that probably as physicians, I will not recommend. And something that has been very, well, probably one of the most important aspects of my different fellowship was to have a short period of staying abroad for a few weeks. So a very short-term fellowship to really understand that this was something I really wanted. And this helped me to kind of organize my project to then apply for a long-term fellowship. So as a final note on why applying for a fellowship, because a fellowship is a life-changing experience, and you really have to live the fellowship as a life-changing experience. Again, from a professional side, but also from a personal side. And when you do a life-changing experience, of course, the most difficult step is the first one. So to get out from of your comfort zone. And from that point, things will become much easier. So what fellowship do I apply for? And here my main conflict of interest, I've done almost all the ESMO fellowships during my oncology training. Indeed, ESMO supports a lot young oncologists. They have a lot of educational activities, not only fellowship, but also conferences, educational programs in general that are fully dedicated to young oncologists, and they are completely and fully covered by ESMO. So you have any expense to travel to these meetings or to attend these meetings. And among these initiatives, the fellowship program is one of the most successful in this regards. There are two main different groups of fellowship. The first one is the group of fellowship that I call short-term fellowship. And this can be just a few days, like the translational research unit visit. I'm going to show my experience during this translational research unit visit. It's only a few days. In my case, it was 3 days. Now it's 4 days. And ESMO covers your stay during these days, so your flight and your hotel accommodation. And it's usually organized in a specific center in Europe. Then you have a bit longer, but still shorter fellowship of a few weeks. The one I've done was the clinical unit visit, but there are others like the integration fellowship or the palliative care fellowship that are also successful program. And like the integration fellowship is something that for sure for you as a Brazilian colleague, I will strongly recommend, will strongly consider, because it will help to spend a few weeks in a top leading cancer center in Europe. That will be kind of your starting point, maybe to get in touch with new mentors and develop maybe a project that will help you to stay for a longer period of time in the same center or in another center in Europe. The long-term fellowship in the past, ESMO used to have two different research fellowship, one that was called clinical research fellowship and the other translational research fellowship. Now they've been merged into a single research fellowship of 1 year with the possibility to prolong this to a second year. So it's actually a 2 years fellowship that can be with translational focus or clinical focus. And this is the fellowship that has really played a major role in my personal career development. If you are interested in all these initiatives, we have published a few years ago a paper summarizing all these initiatives and all the forms that are needed to apply for this fellowship. This paper will require some update, but most of the important information and opportunities from ESMO to young oncologists can be found into this article. In my case, as I mentioned, the ESMO fellowship program has been really crucial. I've participated in the Translational Research Unit visit, which is this 2-4 days visit in a top cancer center in Manchester in November 2012, when I was second year medical oncology trainee. Then 1 year after, I spent 6 weeks, which is the duration of the clinical unit visit at the Institut Jules Boré, with Evanto da Zambuja as a main mentor there. And this was the crucial moment of my career in which I've been able to kind of interact with the right people and to build a project that I could then develop a couple of years later into the long-term ESMO fellowship, the 2-year ESMO Translational Research Fellowship that I've done again in Brussels with Evanto da Zambuja. And I spent my actually 3 years, because I prolonged then for another year, with other Brazilian colleagues like Noam Pondé here in the picture. And in terms of productivity, so what the ESMO fellowship brought me in terms of CV, this is how I started my fellowship. I had a few papers, nothing special, mostly reviews, letters, some retrospective studies, presentation at the Italian conference. And then this is how I completed my almost 4 years abroad with many publications, some of them in important oncology journals, and also presentation in international conferences. And also involvement in different committees or from ESMO, but also international working groups in my field of interest, breast cancer in young women, and also oncofertility, so also working groups with gynecologists. So it's true that doing this type of fellowship will like bring a lot to your CV, but again, this should not be the only goal of the fellowship, as I've mentioned earlier on. Of course, the ESMO fellowship program is not the only programs that can be give you the opportunity to have a fellowship abroad. Like in the ESMO website, you can find external oncology fellowship opportunities. So there are different hospitals that when they have open position, they post them into the ESMO website. Like here again, for example, I've just checked a few days ago, the Institut Jules Boré has a position for clinical research fellow, or the Melanoma Institute of Australia. Similarly, in the ESO, so the European School of Oncology website, which is another great association for giving young oncologists educational opportunities and also fellowship opportunities. Here again, there are a lot of institutions that publishes their fellowship program or their fellowship opportunities, so something to be checked on a regular basis. And also similarly, ASCO has its fellowship program. We as European, we are maybe a bit less involved into the activities of ASCO, but I know that, and I know many colleagues that apply to ASCO fellowship that are as successful as the ESMO fellowship program that I've just mentioned. And there are also specific fellowship for physicians working in low to middle income countries, for example, and again, fellowship that will provide the full support to spend abroad a period of fellowship. In my case, I've not only spent 3 years in Brussels with the ESMO fellowship program, but I've also had the opportunity to travel to the US, which I think is crucial if you want to do a career in oncology research. And I had the opportunity to spend a few months with Anne Partridge at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. She's one of the major, probably the most important leading expert in the field of breast cancer in young women, which is the field I'm more interested in. And then I spent also a few months at the Jefferson University with Massimo Cristofanilli, the liquid biopsy guy coming from Italy and now working in Chicago. And I've had the opportunity to spend this period abroad because we, like during our Italian oncology training, we are allowed to spend a few months abroad and we are covered for this fellowship by our university. So this is something that also should be checked internally if available at your institution. Final point, so some tips on how to actually apply for a fellowship. There are three key points, three key aspects that you need. First, of course, the project, then mentor and collaborators, and finally, motivation, which probably among them is still the most important one. So project, how to have a project, you need to have original ideas. You or your mentor at your institution help you in having original ideas. Or a topic that has never been or has been poorly addressed, or a topic that remains controversial based on the available data, so that needs more research effort to provide a final answer, or a topic that is current or future hot topic, for example, immunotherapy in all diseases, including breast cancer. This is, of course, a hot topic that will stay for many years. But when you start your project, when you have your ideas, it's always important to, before starting any type of application to grant, application to fellowship, and writing manuscript, to check what is already available in the literature, so what is already published, but also what is ongoing, and so it's likely to be published before you are going to have your project finalized. So here, my project and my research field, I'm mostly interested in the field of breast cancer in young women, and this I've been introduced to this topic by my Italian mentor, Lucia Del Mastro, when I was still a medical student. And what I found, I think as young oncologists, we should be really a lot into this concept, is to find a project in an area that matters to your patient. And as young oncologists, we cannot be a principal investigator of a phase 3 trial, so we cannot start our career as a PI of a phase 3 trial. So I think that finding a so-called niche of interest, so a topic that has not been extensively investigated, that it's maybe not very much addressed by leading breast cancer expert, is a way to move forward, and a topic that is of importance for your patient. In my case, fertility, pregnancy, you can consider it maybe just a niche, something not like so exciting from a pharma perspective, or for the majority of oncologists, because it's also kind of related to gynecology, not fully oncology research, but actually this is something crucial for our patients. So I'm very happy that I've done most of my research in this kind of niche. Something that also has been quite successful in my case, and I would recommend, is when you start your project and you find your area of research and of interest, try to develop not just one project, but keep on working in the same area. In my case, I've been involved in this randomized trial that was run and led by my mentor. I had the great opportunity to be there in the final steps of the trial, but this was not the final publication. Was actually for me the starting point for developing a larger like a research activity in the field. I moved then to doing a meta-analysis based on abstracted data, then develop a more complex project that was actually my PhD thesis in Brussels, at the University of Brussels, with many different projects in the field of oncofertility, so fertility, preservation, and pregnancy after breast cancer. And when I finalized my PhD, this was not the end of the story, but I brought back home this interest and the need to kind of move another step forward in the same field. with other research effort in the same area. And this way of kind of producing data in the same area of research has also brought me to participate in the international guidelines from the most important European societies for medical oncology, ESMO, but also of fertility specialists or of gynecologists, which is ECHRE. So again, a niche, but of very importance to our patient, and then more than just one research effort to kind of finding your way and your position into the research environment, and to be recognized as an expert in that specific field, even if you are a young oncologist. Second important aspect, so first the project, the second is mentor. It's impossible as a young oncologist to develop a successful career in research by yourself, by doing everything by yourself. You need mentors, and I will strongly specify the S at the end of mentor. So it's not only one, but should be more than one. And I'm going back to this topic afterwards. It's really something very important for career development and academic productivity. And it's also like published in the literature that the like successful mentor, if you have a successful mentor, you have a higher H index, which is one of the parameters we are we need as for academic positions. How to find good mentors? This is the so-called 3 C's of an effective mentor. So you should find people that are first competent, so should be knowledgeable in the field you want to work in, should be confident, so should kind of help you and share credit, and this is very important. And third important point, should be committed, because being a mentor is also, of course, something that requires time, and this person should offer the mentees some of his or her time. So this means that, for example, big major opinion leader in breast cancer, they may be super big opinion leader, but they are not always, or actually not all of them are always good mentors. And one of the main reasons is that these people should be committed, should offer some time to their mentees. So how to find good mentors? I think that the most important point is the last one. So look at the track record of this person. If you see at one conference this person that you think, okay, this is a very respected person, always speaking about the same subject, but then you look at the CV of this person, you don't see major publication as last author, you don't know anybody working in that has trained with him or her, well, this is probably not the best mentor to work with. On the other side, there are also features of the mentee that are important, and now that I'm kind of moving to the other side and try to mentor my fellows, I will really support some of these key qualities that you should have. First, very important, to be a hard worker and to perform, to have a positive attitude, to observe the rules. There are different rules in different countries and different institutions, and this is key to respect. To have clear career goals. This is, of course, more difficult at the beginning of your career, but like the older you get, the clearer should be your career goals. I think the most important point is to seek for exposure opportunities. So show to your mentor that you want projects, that you are motivated, that you are excited about your field, to get the attention of your mentor. In my case, as I've mentioned, I don't have one single mentor, but I have the lucky to have several. One is the so-called primary mentor, which is Lucia Del Mastro from my home institution in Genova, the person I train with, and now she's actually my boss. Now that I'm back in Genova at my institution, she has been always there, and she's the kind of last person that kind of knows all my career path and shares most of my decision. But then I have also the lucky to have other people in different countries, Ate Masin, Fedro Pecatori, Evandro da Zambuja, Isabel Di Mister, and Partege. So people that I know they are there. So when I need them, they are available. and the way I interact with them, of course, depends also on, of course, on their time, but also on the needs I have. So maybe among these people, there are some of them that I contact more often, and others that maybe I contact a couple of times a year, but in those 2 times are crucial to move forward with a specific project. So try not to kind of focus only on one person, but try to be broad. In this aspect, again, going back to the opportunities offered by ESMO, there's a program that is called Virtual Mentorship Program. That is a kind of way to support young oncologists with unmet mentoring, to kind of partner with the big, major leading experts from the European School of Medical Oncology that will connect with you on a regular basis, of course, with all the communication tools that we know very well during this COVID-19 time. And this program has had its first edition last year, and we have just opened during ESMO this year the second year. So the application process is now open, and it will stay open, I think, for a couple of months. But check on the website. It's not difficult to apply. You need a CV with a specific format that you can download from the website, a motivation letter, letter of recommendation from your institution, and you have to be an ESMO member. This is a way to get in touch with one important person in your area of interest, and a person that again can become part of your mentoring committee and can stay as part of your mentoring committee for the rest of your professional career. For doing research, we need a mentor, but we also need collaborators, because you cannot do everything by yourself with your mentor only. As a young oncologist, this is something that I faced, and this was something that was very difficult at the beginning of my career, how to find people to work with. 2 main tips that I will give on this regards. First, try to get involved into collaborative groups, national groups, international groups in your area of research, in my case, breast cancer, and also international societies. They have their own annual meetings and initiatives for young oncologists. And when you are part of these events, and we really hope to be back in person soon, try to kind of maybe go beyond the event by itself, and try to develop activities around the event to get in touch and to know these people that will become your friends and will become your collaborators for the rest of your career. Among these events, the networking Young Oncologists Evening during the ESMO conference is something not to miss. This is a great, it's really a fun night, but it's also an opportunity to find people that works in your same area of research, and that again could become your collaborator for the next year. Finally, last point, the most important one, it's motivation. For almost all the initiatives that I've mentioned, you need a motivation letter, and the motivation letter is really the key aspect to get accepted into these programs. I know that people maybe are worried that they don't have publications, or not a very good CV, so how can they be accepted in that program? Again, now that I also kind of assess some motivation letters, I can really say that from this letter, you really see who is the person fully motivated to get that opportunity. In this letter, you really have to clarify who you are, what you want to achieve, how this fellowship will help you to achieve your goals, how this will impact your field and your career, then your project, which is also part of the motivation letter. But the main point is to make clear to the committee why to choose you and your project as compared to the other people that applied. So really show that you are motivated and fully motivated for that specific activity. Motivation means also never give up. Research is very complex, and it's like a multi-step process with many obstacles in between, and you really need to like be really motivated to get to the end of the project. There are special and specific rules to be followed for all studies, including retrospective studies. There are specific rules, a lot of paperwork to be done, and this requires motivation, but should be done. You really have to follow the rules. I think you have to be fair. This is something that is very sensitive, actually worldwide in all institutions, and is also very sensitive when you are a young fellow or a young oncologist, which is the authorship. I would strongly recommend to really clarify at the beginning of each project who is gonna do most of the work, meaning who is the leading person in the project, who is gonna be the first author of the project, and then also who is your mentor for that specific project, so the person that will be your last author. And then be fair with the team working in this project to really clarify this aspect from the beginning and seek for help to the other author based on their expertise and potential contribution in that project. So this is again something not to be discussed at the end, because then it becomes more difficult, and you can get kind of annoyed by some people that want to get the first authorship, that want to just jump into the project at the end. So again, something to be fair since the start of your project. And the final, and this is my final slide, like your motivation, the final important aspect of your motivation should be to deliver your project. And to deliver our project means to publish and have your project published. I present here one of my first original research was a retrospective study that I published in The Oncologist in 2015. So a good journal, but nothing really special. But this is still one of the projects, probably the project I'm the most proud of, because this was a retrospective study that I started when I was first year medical oncology trainee. So nobody knew me. I had very few friends. Also, my mentor was not really much into like listening to me and my like initiatives, but she was okay with me doing this project. But then at the time I published this paper, my relationship with my mentor completely changed. My relationship with other Italian colleagues that also participated in the project, or others that did not participate, has completely changed, because with that, because by publishing something, you make all people aware that you are able to deliver something. You are able to get your idea to the end. You will see in your career that there will be a lot of people with very good ideas, a lot of bright mind, a lot of studies, very brilliant studies to be conducted, but not all of them will become a published paper. And to kind of make yourself visible and respected by other colleagues, by your mentors, I think this is a key aspect. So if you start something, go to the end and have your paper published. Even if it's just a small publication, small idea, but you have done the project, you really need to publish it and have it appearing in PubMed. And with that, I really wish to thank you for your attention. And like I'm here for any question also in the future. Thanks a lot again.
Great, Matteo. A fantastic talk. It's really interesting and a pleasure to see your thoughts about all these issues, because here in Brazil, I was invited few times for talking about all these opportunities. And it's really interesting how you put together the ideas, and what to me is the big difference here is the responsibility that you put in the hands of the mentee. So people need to want, they need to conquer what they want. And you put this very clearly. It's really interesting because you change the direction. There is a question, Matteo, here for you. So Erica is asking you about the costs for fellowships. So we are here in Brazil. we are much poorer than Italy, and it's really hard for us to travel to US or even Europe and to spend 1 month. So what about the costs for participating in these fellowships?
No, thanks, Romualdo, for the question, and thanks, Erika. Actually, I'm sorry that I was not that clear in this specific part, but for this fellowship that I've presented, if you are selected, so if your application is successful, everything is covered. So you like your flight, your stay abroad, your salary when you are abroad is fully covered by, for example, ESMO, if you apply to the ESMO integration fellowship. So this is of course a crucial aspect. It would not have been possible for me to travel for so long without this type of support. So by myself only, or by my like Italian oncology training program only. What is like something that was successful in my case was that after applying for 2 years, so after being funded by ESMO for 2 years for my fellowship, then the center I was working in, which was the Institut Jules Bordet, wanted me to stay more. And so at that point, they started to cover my salary. So I think the fellowship is the first step to then maybe having other opportunities, including your salary paid by other institutions. But this type of fellowships are fully covered by the society you have applied for, also the European School of Oncology, also ASCO as well, or this program are covered if you are selected. And just going back to your point, Romualdo, well, I fully agree. This is and I can tell you from my like personal experience, I come from a 600 people village. I'm the first physician of my family, so really coming from kind of nowhere, in the middle of nowhere, as people in Genova are saying about where I'm from. But actually, if you want something, you have to get it. And your motivation, your commitment, well, should help you to get there. And here we have a lot, like in these days, as compared to the past, we have a lot of opportunities as young oncologists, a lot of educational events, fellowship. It's very easy to travel. So it's possible. It's just a matter of being motivated, committed, and doing it.
That's great, Matteo.
I had the opportunity. Hello, I am Tatiana. I had the opportunity to be at ESMO through visit in Vienna to 2019, and was the expenses was covered by ESMO. It's true what he said. You can get the tickets from Brazil to go, and I spent 1 week there. Was nice.
No, thanks, Tatiana. Yeah, actually, for example, the clinical unit visit, now I have to check how much it is right now, but when I applied, they gave, I think they gave you like 5,000 euros. So it's like almost $6,000 US for 6 weeks. So actually with those money, you could spend much more than just 6 weeks. So it's, at least for this ESMO fellowship, which are the one I know the most because I applied for them, again, it's fully covered, and the money you get will help you to cover a longer stay as compared to what it's in the website, because it's usually more money than what you need for a few weeks.
That's great. So Matteo, we have Marcelo. Marcelo is one of the mentors of the workshop. He raised his hand. Marcelo, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Romualdo. Hello, Matteo, come stai? Tutto bene?
Bene, grazie.
Actually, I know Matteo from Nosso, which was a very, very good colleague from Jules Bordet. And actually, I would like to first thank you for your presence. I know it's quite late there. I have a small one here too, so I know how crazy life gets when you have small kids. But my question is, many people, and this was one of the things that were in my mind when I was finishing my training. I had the opportunity to stay in Canada and Princess Margaret, but for personal reasons, I chose to stay in Brazil because I had a position. So now I could just develop over here with my colleagues, etc. So my question is, you were abroad and then you came back to Genova. What are the main challenges for you in reallocating yourself when you come back home? This for me is very tricky. So I would like to know your thoughts about it.
Oh, thanks, Marcelo. This is actually a great question. And we had last week at ESMO a session on this specific question. So what are the challenges of going back home? And I was with Laura Mesquita from the lung cancer field, and also Solange Peter, the ESMO president, discussing that. I think was a very nice session because we all share the same issues and challenges. As you have mentioned, one of the main reasons to move back is something outside your professional life, which is, as I mentioned, something as important, actually probably more important than your professional life. But I think something key, if you decide to move back, is to bring your knowledge, your expertise, your motivation, and everything that you have learned and you have developed abroad back in your home institution. Of course, it's challenging because in these big institutions like the one you have been, or Institut Bordet, these are institutions with a very a perfect infrastructure, everything is organized and much easier. Then you move back in your home institution and there are more problems as compared to these centers. But again, if you want to do something, do it. And in my case, I've had, of course, a lot of challenges. I'm still having a lot of challenges, but I've found and I'm finding the way to keep on moving my research forward also in my home country. Of course, we have to compromise with the regulation and the people in your home institution that is different from those outside your institution. But again, if you have the knowledge, the expertise, and the motivation, it's you more than the center that can make a difference. And I think that I'm pretty sure Romualdo will agree on that. He's still doing a lot of projects with Dana-Farber. So again, what you have learned with the fellowship, the contacts you have made, the mentors, the collaborators, they will stay forever. So you don't need to work at Dana-Farber to do good research. Of course, working there makes your professional life much easier, but you can do also very good things back in your home institution because it's you more than your institution that matters.
Thank you so much. I think just for finalizing the matter, you two, I'm not saying this to Romualdo because he's the chair here, but you two are very good examples and inspirations to all of us because I know you guys are very young. I think you were 36 recently, right? I think you posted on Twitter.
Last week, yes.
I'm just 2 years younger. Romualdo is a little bit older, but anyway, it's very inspirational for you guys to publish so much. I follow you guys, your research, Romualdo, and yours, and I think we should make an example out of you too because it's possible to come back and to keep publishing it, to keep doing the good work. We hear, I think in Brazil we have a lot of fear of not being accepted when you come back because the market is very tricky right here. But I think if in my opinion, if you do a very good work in your fellowship, you will be accepted anywhere you want because you will be a level above everyone else. So thank you so much for being here. It's always a pleasure to see you virtually. Maybe next time in person. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll hope so. Well, maybe if I can just make one final point on your comment, Marcelo, which I think is very important. So if you go out for a fellowship, and in my case, when I left for the US, I really didn't want to go back home. So I said, well, I don't want to go back to my country. Actually try to keep in touch with your colleagues, your mentor back at your institution, but also your colleagues in your country, because actually you never know. In all these years of fellowship, a lot of things can change, And if you want to go back, then as you have mentioned, it's difficult if you are, even if you have a great CV, the best CV in your country, it's not that easy then to move back, to be back in the kind of politics and cultural life back in your country. So this is an important aspect, to keep in touch with your home institution, maybe involve them in the projects when you are abroad, because you never know what is going to happen in your life also, not only professional but also personal life.
That's great, Marcelo. Great points. I think you addressed very important questions. I think we are now at 7 here in Brazil, midnight in Italy. I think all of us would like to spend much more time with Matteo, but I think we need to leave him to get him free, because he has a baby at home, and I know he is so excited and he wants to help everyone. He would stay here for much more time, but I think we need to let you go, Matteo. But thank you so much. You are an inspiration, as Marcelo just said, and I think everyone will doubt like your capacity in the beginning. So probably in the beginning you said, oh, come on, Matteo just published something in Italy, and I know he's just published something in Brussels. So now he is now publishing something with Dana Farber and Olivia Pagani and all these guys. So at some point, someone will say that you are not doing the best thing just because you are lucky or because you have good people with you. So, but you are constantly in challenge. So people will challenge your capacity, but 190 papers is not for a lot of people. I think it's impressive. And Matteo, thank you so much. You are an inspiration.